Tonight I want to share with you a big idea. And the big idea is that you matter more than you know. Now there's something a little strange about this, because I am nobody of any consequence, which is kind of ironic that I'm here to convince you that you do matter more than you know. It's interesting to see this because I saw a little bit of this earlier, and it reminded me of how big the world is. I had a buddy that was helping me put together the pictures that I wanted to use for this. And we were sitting at a location here in town with free Wi-Fi, and as I went to get a drink of sweet tea, I heard a person call out my name. And I went over and they said to me, "Do you remember me?" And the right answer is always yes. I said, and it's true in this case, I remember your face. And they said to their friends, "He does the best Elvis ever." He used to come on Christmas Eve and sing Elvis Christmas carols to us, and we would all sing together. Now I'm a professional counselor, so it's really important to know the things that you do that make a difference. We can sometimes feel like when the world's really big, this is where we are. Pretty insignificant. I want to dissuade you of that. Reality is, as we look around, we see bad news all around us. We've heard some of it. And the bad thing is, it's true. We are surrounded by poverty. There is crime. We have racial divisions, war. And it can be a little overwhelming if you stop and think about it. In fact, it really pains me some of the time when I think about all the hurt that's out there. And it would be easy to think, there's really nothing I can do about it. I kind of think of myself as that little green dot sometimes. There's 7 billion people in the world. Cody wants to know them all. But I'm kind of realistic that I don't think I can do anything about that. But I know there are people that are trying to help. There's a billion people in the world that are hungry. There's 330 million Americans. A lot of them are having problems. In our state, 4 million. In our community, somewhere between 250,000 and a half million people. What can we do? As big as that big social problem is, it's that individual. Saw a very positive quote from Henry David Thoreau earlier tonight. He also said, "The mass of people live lives of quiet desperation." So many people. So as bad as all the bad news is, I just want you to know, it might be worse than you think. It's really kind of inspiring, I know. You feel kind of like you're out in the dark and it's raining on your eye, you don't have your umbrella. I feel like that sometimes. Because I'm a counselor, I work with children, I work with families. A lot of the kids that I see have been bullied, they have other kinds of difficulties. They try to kill themselves. Parents don't know what to do. Some of the things that we've heard about earlier tonight are the problems they're wrestling with. So we have 3 things that we might be able to bring to bear. Talent. Sometimes when I think about talent, I think about how unequally distributed it seems to be. Some people seem to have all this talent, especially when we think about singing and dunking basketballs. These are the important things, right? But I want to expand the way you think about thinking about talent. I had a great discussion earlier tonight. Sewing, cooking. There's lots of things that might be talents that could come to bear on some of the problems that we face. Treasure. Some people have worked really hard to acquire greater treasure than other people. We all have a little bit of treasure. Some people have more. Maybe one of the questions we can ask is, how can I apply the treasure that I have to people who have less? And time. Time seems like a great equalizer, right? Because we all have 24 hours in a day, 60 minutes in an hour, 60 seconds in a minute. We all have the same amount of time, but even time can be a little bit unequally distributed. You have to be on the bus, it's a little bit different. But we do have time, and we do have discretion about how we spend our time. So I'd like you to think a little bit about time. If you're like me, you spend time on the things that are important. This is my family. My wife and a couple of my boys are here tonight. And I want to spend time with my family, and I want to treasure my family. But I think a lot of us do that, right? We try to take care of the people that are inside of our tent. Is that heroic? I don't know if it is. I mean, there's certainly people who don't. But it's not particularly heroic. What does it mean to be heroic? What could we do? And if we wanted to do something, who would we help? Where would we start? Why would we get involved? How? Those are big questions. I don't know that we always know the answers. Last night, I was working late. I had to go to a facility, and I see some kids there, and they're depressed. They're trying to kill themselves. I had left some paperwork undone. You know, paperwork will get you. So I had to go back after hours. It was about 8:30. And as I walked into the hallway, there was this little guy, and he was saying, "I want to go home. I want my mommy." He was crying. He was wailing, right? And as I walked in, I thought, gosh, I got all this stuff to do. See, sometimes I'm not a nice person. I just wanted to get my stuff done. I was tired. I wanted to get home. But then I thought, a lot of times I tell people, it doesn't cost a lot to be kind. So I had to reconsider what I wanted to do. So I got down on one knee, and I said to him, remember I told you I'm a counselor, right? I also told you that he's saying I miss my mommy and I want to go home. But see, he didn't really put all that together. I said, I think I know what's bothering you. And he looked at me, and I said, I think you love somebody a whole lot, and you're missing them. See, if they're little like that, they don't remember they just told you that. So I look like a genius a little bit, right? And I said, I think you're missing your mommy. And there's 2 or 3 actually staff people around, and this kid's just been going and going and going. And they all look a little frustrated and a little haggard, you know, trying. And I said, you know, sometimes when my wife is gone and my boys got scared, there wasn't anything I could do but build a blanket for them. And he kind of looked at me. And I said, sometimes a tight hug would help. And I was getting ready to ask him, would you like a tight hug? But he was on my neck. He was giving me a tight hug. And I asked the staff person, I said, hey, would you give me a blanket? And they're used to me being a little odd, so they just wanted to get a blanket. And so we built a little tent blanket fort, used a couple of chairs. And I told him, I said, I'm not sure this will work because you might still be scared in there. It's not too dark, is it? He was like, no, it's not too dark. And I built him a little pallet, and I said, you know what, I've got some work to do. I'll come back in an hour and check on you. It only took me about 40 minutes. I went back, and guess what? He was asleep. And as I was walking by a staff person, I kind of looked at it, and I thought I knew what they were going to say. I thought they were going to say, hey, thank you. But they looked right at me, and they said, I love you. And I didn't know if they actually meant to say that, or if like, thank you and I love you is right pretty close to in the same place in your brain. They just said the wrong thing, you know, like when you're on the phone sometimes and you tell somebody kind of awkwardly, I love you. You're like, oh, no, I just meant goodbye, sorry. But you do kind of love them, right? We don't tell people that sometimes. So we built this, and it took a little bit of time. It took about 7 minutes, I think. It's not a lot of time, is it? Sometimes we don't take time for things. I think in life, sometimes we don't remember days, we remember moments. And sometimes our life is affected by the moments we choose to remember. And earlier tonight I was thinking about some really tragic moments that were talked about. And some people keep the tragic moments really at the top of their awareness, and their life is organized around those things. But what if we could change those moments? Like, I don't know if it's going to be a really big deal for this kid that somebody built him a blanket for it. But what if it was? Or what if going and singing Elvis Christmas carols, what if that made a big difference? Because it seemed to make a difference to this woman. She's like 28 years old. And that's what she remembered. Recently, there was a gentleman who came to town. He was a Harvard professor. His name's Robert Putnam. He wrote a book. I'd recommend it. It's called Our Kids. And he talks about how we used to think about our kids as the kind of the kids in the community. But now, we kind of think about our kids as the kids that live under my roof. But what if we started thinking about the general community, and we did some things to help other people, other kids, just other people? The average American really only knows about 290 people, is what I read. But they really only trust about 10. 10 people. I wonder what would happen if we could bump that up, like 11, 12. And I will tell you, some people that have desperate problems, I know, they'll tell me they don't trust anyone. In fact, some of the kids tell me, trust hurts, love kills. desperate, quiet desperation. And sometimes we interact with people and we don't know really what's going on in their life. Sometimes we don't take a minute just to talk to them a little bit. I was standing next to a person one day and they were talking about how the hours had changed at work. And it was creating a problem because they're trying to take care of a grandkid or some family member. And it was over there, the conversation was over there, I'm over here, I'm trying to mind my own business, but they're talking really loud. And I said to them, I wonder if that person who does the scheduling is a truly evil person. They kind of looked at me like, they want to go on with their story, they're telling themselves a story. And I said, it just doesn't make sense if they knew. I said, sometimes when something doesn't seem to make sense, I just go and talk to people and ask them, did you know? She kind of looked like annoyed at me. I get that a lot. But later, I got a little Facebook message and it said, thank you for the 5-minute counseling session. I said that. I don't even know the rest of the story. But it kind of fits with my idea that sometimes we're part of a story that's bigger than us. We just have a small part. Have a small part of a big story. But be the hero of your own story. You won't necessarily be famous. You might not be elected. You might not be rich. But you can be a hero in your own story. And you know what? Being that hero might make you kind of a hero, or the best Elvis that somebody's ever heard. They just haven't heard a lot, I assure you. You can change your story and you can change your life, but as you change your story and as you do these things, you will actually change other people's lives. And sometimes people think that maybe it will come back to them. And I can tell you, I've been a foster parent, and not every foster kid returns you and thanks you, but you may have changed their story. Some will. I'm Ray Mackie. I'm trying to make the world a better place, but it's a really big job. I'm starting to think I can't do it by myself. I need some help. And you matter more than you know. Thanks.